Incredible urgency. My son's shocking call at the park. Uncovered a hidden danger I never expected. Tom could barely hear the joyful sounds of laughter from children playing on the swings over the frantic pounding of his heart when his phone rang. It was a call from Max, his small voice trembling. "Dad, there's a man watching us. He keeps staring at me." The joy of their picturesque Saturday afternoon disintegrated in an instant, replaced by a chilling urgency that gripped him. Abandoning the picnic blanket, he sprinted through the park, a primal instinct flooding his mind. Protect his son at all costs. What had started as a simple outing now felt like a nightmare come alive. A buzz of unease accompanied each footfall. Strangers passed by with benign expressions, unaware of the horror unfolding in the playground. As he ran, his thoughts raced. What if Max was in danger? What had that man been doing? Those flimsy ideas of parental control, of safety, cracked beneath the weight of his dread. He was a high school teacher, a professional committed to educating young minds. Yet here he was, nakedly exposed, fearing he had no control over the one thing that mattered most. The innocent laughter of children felt like a mockery now. When Tom finally arrived, he froze, the real horror unfolding before his eyes. The man was not just an observer. He lingered at the outskirts, his eyes fixated on the children, assessing, calculating. Panic surged through Tom's veins as he felt a time-stretched moment, his son oblivious to the predator lurking nearby. Clenching his fists, he pulled out his phone, trembling fingers dialing 911, the weight of the call freezing him in place. Could he let this happen without doing anything? His professional instinct screamed to act, yet all he could do was watch, feeling powerless. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications, so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. A storm brewed within him as he grappled with rising questions. Who could he trust? The shadows of doubt crept closer, shifting the confines of his world where familiar faces smiled innocently. His co-workers, people he had laughed with during faculty meetings. Were they really the allies he believed them to be? Beneath the surface lurked a chilling insight. A child exploitation network tied to the very volunteer organizations that moved through the community like benevolent spirits. Tom felt an anxious knot tightening around his heart, each breath drawing heavier. Could his friends really stand by the tainted institutions they were tied to? Would he risk breaking ties or, even worse, be ostracized for speaking out against a looming danger? A once simple life now twisted into a labyrinth of deceit. He felt like a soldier standing at a precipice. Loyalty or justice? Maintain friendships or save the innocent? His journey into exposing this insidious threat had just begun, yet the stakes rose higher with every grim reveal. The laughter of carefree children faded like a haunting echo as he prepared to confront an ugly truth, torn between protecting his family and challenging the shadowy web enfolding his community. Tom's mind surged with conflicting thoughts as he paced back and forth outside the playground. His instincts as both a father and an educator collided in a tempest of fear and resolve. How could this disparity exist so close to home? What was he willing to risk to protect the innocent? Just then, he recalled a conversation with a colleague about a recent rise in local outreach programs, celebrating safety and community involvement. Beneath those glossy brochures and bubbly presentations, was there a buried truth? Fueled by an urgency he couldn't ignore, Tom began formulating a plan. He had seen enough to understand that silence was complicity. He could no longer sit on the sidelines. Every fiber of his being urged him to confront the man who had stoked his fears. But what could he do? Was confronting a potential predator the right tactic? Should he engage the authorities first? His fingers twitched on the phone, but rather than dialing, he gripped it tighter to quell his rising anxiety. "This isn't just about you, Tom," he whispered under his breath, mentally shaking himself out of panic. "This is about Max, about all the children. What's stopping you from acting?" With that pivotal realization, clarity broke through the haze. In his profession as a teacher, he had always emphasized the importance of agency, of empowering others to stand up for what was right. It was time for him to practice what he preached. He could no longer afford to be paralyzed by fear. The small victories he had achieved in the classroom, teaching resilience, could be expanded beyond the confines of a school. A plan began to coalesce in his mind. He could enlist allies, the parents of Max's friends, the other teachers. But first, he needed to gather data. Footage from the park's surveillance cameras, testimonies from other parents, anything that could paint a clearer picture of the menace stalking the outskirts. Tom felt a simmering resolve grow within him, urging him to act strategically rather than impulsively. As the sirens echoed in the distance, his heart pounded not just for fear, but for clarity of purpose. He took a deep breath and forced himself to focus. Call the police. Document everything. Prepare a group meeting with concerned parents. He could lead, galvanize those who might too have been duped by the facade of safety. His prior discomfort morphed into a burning desire to shine a light on the darkness beneath, yet an unsettling doubt slowed him. What if he was wrong? What if his crusade to uncover the truth created waves of unnecessary paranoia? Playing out scenarios in his mind, he recognized this was more than just the life of his son at stake. It was a broader campaign about trust and vigilance in the community. Tom understood now that his personal conflicts were entwined with the outside world. Determined, he dialed Max's number. When his son answered, Tom's voice was steadier than he felt. "Max, stay close to your friends. I need to come back and talk to you and your mom." As he made his way back, burdened with both clarity and uncertainty, Tom recognized that the work he was about to embark on would expose not only others, but also himself. Could he truly navigate this murky terrain of truth? The stakes were only just becoming apparent. The moment had arrived for Tom to face his fears, but a more sinister revelation loomed on the horizon. Was he prepared for the secrets his search might unveil? Or would the very people he had trusted turn out to be part of the darkness he sought to destroy? Tom walked briskly towards home, determined and anxious all at once. Each step echoed in his mind with a rhythm of urgency. He couldn't shake the thought that the shadows lurking around the playground were not merely physical obstacles, but metaphors for the fears and complacencies buried within himself and the community. His earlier nervousness morphed into a steely resolve. He was on the verge of something larger than himself. As he stepped into the house, the comforting smell of dinner briefly distracted him, but his resolve pierced through. "Max!" he called, his voice breaking slightly. His son rushed into the living room, a mixture of relief and worry evident on his young face. "Dad, is everything okay? Not quite, buddy, but I want to talk," Tom said, crouching to meet Max's gaze. It was essential that his son felt both safe and empowered, even amidst the impending turmoil. "There's something happening that we need to be cautious about, and we're going to take action together." As he spoke, he sensed Max's trust in him wavering on the edge, a delicate balance that was crucial. Tom recollected the lessons he had taught Max about recognizing when something feels wrong and importance of being vigilant. "You know that feeling you sometimes have? Like when you feel scared or uneasy about something? That's your instinct trying to protect you." Max nodded, wide-eyed. Are you talking about the guy at the park? Tom hesitated, processing the weight of the moment. This was far beyond fear-based parenting. Yes, and I want you to promise me something. If anything feels off, you've got to tell me or your mom right away. The seriousness of the conversation pressed between them. Tom was intensely aware that he was shaping not only Max's understanding today, but potentially his future reactions to danger. The urgency of his actions weighed heavily on him. Their discussion transitioned into an outline of what actions they could take. How to gather friends. How to engage with other parents. Determining the best way to ensure their collective safety. After talking with Max, Tom gathered himself, realizing he couldn't navigate this path alone. He needed allies who were as committed to the safety of their children as he was. The thought of reaching out to his colleagues at school, particularly those he held close like Anna, a fellow teacher known for her shrewd insights and unwavering support, eased his anxiety. Inviting her into his plan felt like forming a coalition against a mutual fear. The plan began to crystallize further. He would propose an informal gathering with concerned parents, share information, and encourage them to voice their experiences, fostering a safer environment for the children. It was a bold proposition, but as he drafted an email to Anna, he felt a rush of empowerment. He was no longer a passive observer. He was becoming a leader, ready to confront the issue head-on. Yet, as he pressed send, a whisper of doubt returned. Could he really mobilize a group driven by fear without inciting chaos? Striking the right balance between vigilance and paranoia was delicate. He recalled the conversation with Anna about how the mind can amplify fear, creating unnecessary tension in a community. Would his actions create a sense of hysteria rather than safety? Tom's heart raced as he deliberated, knowing the stakes. He realized that in harnessing this tension, he would need to communicate not just the potential dangers lurking, but also the strength found in unity and steadfastness. Leading them into awareness was like walking a tightrope. Would he truly succeed in bringing forth a proactive dialogue, or would he merely sow seeds of fear? The moment was upon him to reconcile his intentions with the possible outcomes of his actions. Tomorrow, he murmured to himself, feeling both the excitement and fear grip him yet again. The real challenge lay ahead. The meeting would unveil both the vulnerabilities of his community and the darkness that maybe had always been there. And then there was another thought that occurred to him, chilling. What if the very person he was warning others about had already wormed their way into the community, disguised as someone trustworthy? As he lay in bed that night, the shadows danced on the walls, and he found himself questioning. Was he ready to uncover the truth, no matter what it entailed? As morning kissed the horizon, Tom awoke with a newfound intensity. The urgency of the previous night mingled with a sense of purpose, driving him from the warmth of his bed. He had spent hours contemplating his strategy, and now every ounce of hesitation had been transformed into a compulsion to act. This was not merely a meeting. It was the battleground for his community's safety, where every word held the potential to awaken dormant fears or breed empowerment. Dressing quickly, he found himself practicing his speech in the mirror, multiple variations tumbling from his lips. Would they understand the gravity of his concerns? Would they recognize the necessity of vigilance without succumbing to unbridled fear? It felt odd to rehearse moments that should occur organically, yet he had never stood at the helm of such a conversation before. At breakfast, Max nudged his cereal around the bowl, unusually quiet, absorbing the tension that filled the air. Tom's mind flitted to thoughts of how much he wanted to shield his son from the terror swirling outside their doorstep. But he also knew this was a pivotal moment for Max to witness courage and responsibility. "You ready for school, buddy?" he asked, opting for a light-hearted tone. Max looked up, his brow scrunched in thought. "Are you sure about the meeting, Dad? Like, what if it makes people more scared?" Tom felt a rush of gratitude. His son's intuition surprised him. "That's a good question. I'm hoping to help everyone feel safer by talking it out." He ruffled Max's hair. "And remember, it's about facing our fears together, not letting them control us." He watched Max's face lighten, bolstered by the veneer of reassurance. As he entered the school, the familiar noise of laughter and young voices filled the air, juxtaposing the weight on his shoulders. The hallways buzzed with anticipation of a new school day, yet Tom felt like he was stepping into the eye of a storm. Each face he passed ignited questions within himself. Who among them could easily succumb to fear, and who might rise as a beacon of support? Tom found Anna in the staff lounge, her warm smile greeting him. "Hey, you look a little intense this morning. Everything okay?" He chuckled awkwardly, brushing his hands against his pants. "Yeah, well, I have that meeting today with the parents. Just prepping for all the 'how could this happen' questions. They'll need guidance." Her expression shifted from casual to considerate. "They will look to you for calm." Nodding, Tom felt the weight of her words settle in his chest, a mix of empowerment and vulnerability. He had not realized how pivotal this could be for his own professional development. Would this boost his confidence? Transform him from an everyday teacher into a community leader? The morning passed quickly, each tick of the clock magnifying his anticipation. When the time finally arrived, Tom stood before a gathering of anxious parents, his heart pounding with the rhythm of purpose. He greeted them with an earnest sincerity, recalling the sense of duty to protect. He spoke of protecting their children, of vigilance without hysteria, emphasizing the importance of shared experiences and open dialogue. Yet as he navigated the discussion, among sympathetic nods and whispered fears, one parent raised a hand, her voice trembling. "But what if we actually find out someone is dangerous? What do we do then?" Her question cut through the air, leaving a lingering wave of dread among his audience. Tom paused, suddenly aware of the culmination of risks he had summoned. The foundations he thought he had built, even temporarily, felt fragile. How could he lead them past fear without exposing them to it? The notion of facing a hidden adversary simultaneously drew him closer to the envisioned resolve, while terrifying him at the same time. Gathering his thoughts, Tom spoke from his gut. "Then we stand together. We talk to each other. We investigate if need be. The only thing we cannot afford is silence." That response elicited murmurs of uncertainty and agreement, but he could feel the tension rise, emotions intertwining in a dance of concern. As the meeting concluded, Tom realized the path ahead was infinitely more complicated than he had anticipated. He had to navigate not just his fears, but those of others as well, pacing between promoting vigilance and avoiding chaos. Stepping outside, a chill ran down Tom's spine, compelling him to reconsider his next steps. The shadows around the playground had started to broaden. He could feel them creeping closer as if they were no longer just an allegory. Turning his gaze toward the setting sun which cast eerie shapes on the ground, Tom understood one thing poignantly. Tomorrow would require a deeper plunge into the unknown. What if those shadows continued to evolve, transforming into something more sinister? What if the real danger was yet to be unveiled? Tom returned home from the meeting, the weight of his words still heavy in his mind. Each step echoed a complex mixture of pride and dread. He had spoken against the creeping tide of fear, yet uncertainty gnawed at him. Had he truly fostered a sense of empowerment, or merely stirred the pot of anxiety? Later that evening, as he sat at the kitchen table, thoughts of the future filled his mind like storm clouds brewing. Max wandered in, swinging a small bag filled with his prized baseball cards. Both a distraction and a comfort, those colorful cards represented innocence and the joyful freedom of childhood. In that moment, Tom felt the flicker of determination reignite. He wanted to preserve that innocence, He craved the strength to shield his son from dangers he couldn't yet identify. "Dad, can we go play catch?" Max's face beamed with expectation, momentarily pulling Tom from the abyss of his thoughts. "Sure, let's head to the park," he replied, forcing a smile, eager to escape the shadows that clung to the air within the house. As they arrived at the park, a serene blanket of twilight embraced them, the sounds of cicadas beginning their evening chorus. Tom watched as Max ran ahead, the ball soaring through the air like pure joy. Yet the shadow of their earlier discussion lingered, the weight of potential danger a constant reminder. Tom threw the ball and watched Max dart after it, his heart swelling with pride. But as the minutes passed, he noticed other children silently gathering on the outskirts of the swings. Their laughter felt distant, almost hollow. Was it his imagination, or did he sense a shift in the atmosphere? An undercurrent of something unsaid? Just as he stood to gather Max, a sudden shout echoed across the park. "Hey, did you see that guy?" A group of children stared toward a man loitering by the far fence. Instinctively, Tom scanned the area, registering the uneasy way the children pointed. He followed their gaze and spotted a middle-aged man with dark sunglasses, a casual stance hinting at untrustworthiness. Tom's heart sank. What had transpired in the pit of his stomach during the meeting now screamed for attention. He approached Max, who was oblivious to the unfolding tension. "Buddy, let's head to the other side, okay? I need you to stick close." They began walking, but his gaze remained fixed on the man. He felt an instinctual discomfort, a primal warning, as he sensed that this moment would define not just his reaction, but his resolve. What if this was the confrontation he had feared? "Dad, why are we moving?" Max asked, looking up with wide eyes, voicing the confusion painted across his friends' faces mere moments before. "Just want to find a better spot for throwing the ball, Max," Tom replied, his mind racing. What would he say if the man approached them? Would he engage in a dialogue, or prepare to protect his son if that became necessary? The sun dipped lower, casting elongated shadows, merging Tom's fears into a single palpable thing. This couldn't be the reality he envisioned for Max. To sidestep danger became increasingly defined as caution, but appeared to shift ever so close to paranoia. "Max, stay on my side, all right?" he reiterated, his voice firm. The man at the fence shifted slightly, a motion that felt threatening in the way a predator might assess its prey. Tom could sense the air thickening with unspoken dread. Suddenly his phone buzzed. It was a message from Anna. "Did you get a chance to talk to the police? They're looking into reports of suspicious activity near the school." Tom's heart raced. The realization hit him like a wave crashing against his thoughts. It wasn't just about vigilance. It was about taking decisive action. A proactive stance was necessary, not just in words, but in reality. As the sun disappeared beyond the horizon, bathing the park in a shroud of darkness, Tom knew that their safety hinged on unity, responsiveness, on confrontations that demanded clarity. With the ominous figure still lingering at the edge of their sanctuary, Tom grasped his son's hand tightly, feeling the weight of immense responsibility settle in. Tomorrow wouldn't just bring conversations, it might ignite swift action. As his gaze remained locked on the man at the fence, he wondered, what steps would he need to take to ensure they remained safe and empowered? How far would he have to go to protect everything that mattered to him? The shadows grew thicker, and the questions deepened. One thing became painfully clear. The time had come to confront the unmasking threat head-on. Tom's mind raced as shadows grasped the edges of the park. He had always envisioned a world where Max could play without fear, where childhood was unspoiled by the harsh realities that seeped into adult conversations. Yet here he stood, staring down a potential threat. Each heartbeat felt like a drum, amplifying the urgency of the moment. "Max," he said, forcing calmness into his voice. "How about we practice your hitting instead?" The suggestion was a guise, a way to put distance between them and the stranger, while giving himself a moment to strategize. "Okay," Max replied, his excitement undeterred by the tension woven into his father's demeanor. The boy dashed toward the equipment, ready to swing the bat he had brought along. But within Tom, the adrenaline surged, mingling with burgeoning fear. His thoughts bibbed with new clarity. He recognized the growing need to act. This wasn't just about reactively guarding Max. It was about being vigilant and proactive. What did this situation require of him? How could he anchor his instinctive protectiveness in actionable strategies? As Max set up swinging the bat in practice, Tom reviewed in his mind the lessons he'd learned from the meeting. Fear could paralyze decision-making, yet it could also forge resolve if navigated correctly. Tom had spoken of empowerment earlier. Now, he sensed the full weight of those words pressing down upon him. Was it time to approach the man at the fence? What if his gut was wrong, but taking no action set them upon a dangerous trajectory? With every throw of the baseball, Tom wrestled with his inner conflict. The park sparkled with fading daylight, but his eyes remained ever trained on the man, who now appeared less like an innocent bystander and more a specter lurking in the periphery of his consciousness. "Hey, Dad, watch this!" Max shouted, breaking his father's concentration. The boy swung the bat, and the ball sailed through the air, a fleeting symbol of childhood freedom. Tom couldn't tell if it was joy or dread that surged through him. It was a blend of both as he tried to stave off the unease that nipped at his resolve. "Great hit, Max!" he cheered, clapping enthusiastically while mentally focusing on possible plans. This wasn't just about a single encounter. This was about establishing a safe paradigm for his child. He imagined discussions with the local authorities, measures that could be taken to ensure safety at school and in the neighborhood. Ideas began forming and solidifying, each one empowering him further. But as Max played blissfully unaware, Tom noticed the man turning toward them, making a slow, deliberate approach. The chill that swept through Tom was visceral. Keeping his voice steady, he said, "Let's move a little closer to the trees," guiding Max away from the center. His heart raced, not only at the presence of the man, but at the thought of confronting the unknown. Could he politely ask if everything was all right? Would that show Max he could stand firm in the face of fear? Max, ever responsive, followed his father's lead. As they moved, Tom felt composed, a decision crystallizing within him. He needed to approach the man, not with confrontation, but with clarity and confidence. As the man drew closer, a knot tightened in Tom's stomach. Confrontation loomed, as did the potential for revelation. Each step mirrored a pivot in his own development, a shift from fear-driven avoidance to courageous engagement. What would he say? How could he draw strength from uncertainty rather than letting it envelop him? With Max now close by, innocence still bubbling in his laughter, Tom knew there was no turning back. The man stopped, casting a sidelong glance that felt calculated. Tom squared his shoulders, preparing to shape the destiny of this fleeting moment. "Excuse me," he called out, voice steady yet commanding. "Can I help you?" And in that instant, a veil hung thick above them, where shadows and doubts intertwined, waiting for the truth to emerge. Would this encounter uncover hidden motives? Or could it perhaps reveal unexpected truths about the nature of fear? Tom stood at the precipice of confrontation, fully aware that by moving forward, he might unveil not just the man's intentions, but his own burgeoning strength. The man paused, eyes narrowing as he tilted his head slightly, a gesture that felt both curious and menacing. Tom instinctively tightened his grip on Max's shoulder, drawing an unspoken safeguard around his son. The tension hung in the air, sharp and electric. What lay beneath the man's surface? What truths waited to be uncovered? "Just watching," the man replied, voice flat yet layered with ambiguity. The casualness of his response did little to ease Tom's apprehension. Was this really just an onlooker? Or was there something deeper simmering beneath that dispassionate gaze? Watching what exactly? Tom pressed, his assertiveness growing. It was time to chip away at the uncertainty that threatened to overwhelm him. Max quirked a brow at his father, sensing the shift, but oblivious to the gravity of the moment. "Kids fly balls round here? Kinda fun to catch 'em." The man shrugged, but something felt off. Was it the way his fingers toyed with the fence, or the slight glimmer of something in his eyes that hid behind indifference? "Yeah, fun as long as everyone's safe," Tom responded, the sentence revealing his thinly veiled concern. The man's nonchalance became a prompt, igniting the urgency within Tom. It wasn't just a casual conversation. It was a critical moment to assert boundaries. He had learned through seminars and parenting workshops that being an empathetic parent didn't equate to being naive. Max, oblivious, returned to his practice swing, whacking the ball into the distance with glee. "Look, I can hit it far," he exclaimed. Tom couldn't help but feel a swell of pride and a piercing pang of protectiveness. Hadn't he previously vowed to create an environment where Max could thrive, fearlessly? More than just fun, Tom shot back, this time searching for a deeper truth. The words rose from a mix of determination and deep concern. Proactive safety measures, yes, but also the emotional heritage he wished to pass down to Max. It was a lesson in empowerment, a moment he wanted to be stronger than fear. The man straightened, cocking an eyebrow at Tom. "You're really something, aren't you?" Sarcasm laced his tone. Defensiveness rippled within Tom. He was done feeling small. "Yes, I'm just trying to protect my son. What's wrong with that?" Moments hung between them heavy, examined, as the man shifted slightly, discomforting the stillness enveloping them. In that silence, Tom found clarity. The whirlwind of his thoughts settled into focus. It was about more than just a confrontation. It was about defining not only their present safety, but establishing values that would guide Max as he grew. "What's your name?" Tom asked, his voice steady. It was time to turn the tables, to stake his claim on this interaction. "Why are you really here?" "Just passing through, like I said," the man dismissed, but the mere act of challenge ignited something within Tom. He felt the stirrings of authority. Here was an opportunity to enforce a boundary, to teach Max about advocating for himself and others. "There's a difference between passing through and being present, though," Tom countered, his words sharp. "You need to understand that we take safety seriously here. I won't let my guard down." The man's expression shifted slightly. Was it annoyance? Or perhaps dejection? But he stood firm, caught in Tom's gaze. A heightened alertness flickered within Tom as he recognized a shift. The man began to back away, hands up, but not in surrender. There was no victory here, just an uneasy resolution. "Enjoy your game," he muttered, turning away. As fear ebbed and adrenaline flowed, Tom glanced at Max, who beamed at the success of his swings. In a split second, Tom realized the importance of that moment. The crux of fatherhood was asserting himself not just as a protector, but as a role model. Before he knew it, he was teaching Max how to confront worries and handle invasive uncertainties. Yet as they resumed their practice, unease lingered at the edges of Tom's mind. Had he perceived danger where there was none? Or had he sparked something in the man that could come back to haunt them later? "Dad, did you see?" Max rattled off, blissfully unaware of the weight of their earlier exchange. The innocence in his voice contrasted with the turmoil within Tom's thoughts. In that moment of joy, Tom felt the gulf widening. Not about protection alone, but of understanding what it truly meant to guide his child in a world that could change in an instant. Little did he know. The next encounter would test him further, uncovering deeper layers of vulnerability and courage he had yet to unearth. "Max," Tom began thoughtfully, "there's something we need to talk about. Something important." As he stood, heart racing for the conversation ahead, he understood he was on the brink of a lesson far beyond just a father and son. The unexpected lay ahead, ready to challenge him anew. "Dad, what is it?" Max asked, glancing up at Tom with genuine curiosity, his small frame half-turned toward the exit of the park. The sun illuminated the playful gleam in his youthful eyes, amidst blades of grass scattered around them. In that moment, Tom felt the weight of responsibility pressing heavily on his chest. "Sit down for a minute," Tom urged, his voice low yet firm. It wasn't about creating fear, but rather fostering understanding within Max about the world they inhabited. "Is this about that weird guy?" Max scrunched up his face, mere speculation lighting up his features. Young as he was, he had picked up on the tension. "Not just him, but what that moment taught us," Tom replied. His heart beat rapidly as he weighed how to communicate the complexity of safety without casting shadows over Max's innocence. Life is full of surprises, and sometimes they aren't good ones. Each word he spoke felt like steel rolling off his tongue. He was forging a path not just for today, but for Max's future. We need to be alert, to stay aware of our surroundings. It's not about being scared. It's about being smart. The boy nodded slowly, absorbing his father's words like a sponge. Tom pressed on, remembering the innumerable seminars that inspired him to instill self-advocacy in his son. There are people who might not have good intentions. You can't always tell just by looking at them. He saw Max's brow crease slightly above concentrated hazel eyes. Sometimes you have to trust your instincts and speak up when something feels wrong. "Like you did?" Max inquired, his tone reflecting both admiration and curiosity. "Yes, like I did," Tom concluded. It was a moment of validation, and although he felt proud of his attempt at a life lesson, a nagging doubt swirled within him. Was he doing it right? The realization that Max was the center of his universe settled like a heavy blanket. Yet, simultaneously, it uplifted him to grow into a better man, to navigate the thicket of fatherhood with intention. Could he foster a sense of security while allowing his son the freedom to explore? "Do you think that man will come back?" Max asked, his voice dipping low, cautious of the unknown. Tom hesitated, grappling with his instincts. "I don't know, buddy. And honestly, it's hard to predict. But you must trust that I'm here to keep you safe." In that moment, Tom recognized his answers were not just for Max. They were also for himself. His own fear was a beast he needed to tame. What opportunities lay within confronting unease? Perhaps it was time to reassess his life strategy. Alongside protecting his son, could he also learn to protect his own vulnerabilities? "I want you to be confident," Tom pressed on, fostering resilience within Max. "If anything ever happens that makes you uncomfortable, you need to alert me or any other trusted adult immediately. Don't hesitate." The boy hesitated, pondering his father's words. "Okay, Dad. So if something feels off, I need to say something, right?" "Exactly," Tom urged, pride swelling within him. Yet shadows of doubt flickered like the leaves in the afternoon breeze. Had he armed Max with sufficient knowledge? What if the moment of urgency arrived? But both father and son weren't ready. As they finished their conversation, Tom felt a determination surging deep within him. He would take further steps to safeguard Max and create an environment that embraced curiosity while firmly establishing boundaries. But there was so much he still had to learn. About being a father, about discerning danger, and ultimately, about protecting himself too. Suddenly, Tom's thoughts jittered with anxiety. What if the man had left only to return stronger, with more sinister intentions? They had merely brushed the surface of a much larger, hidden threat. "Let's finish your practice," Tom suggested, needing a distraction from the storm of possibilities brewing in his mind. He could start implementing training regimes of knowledge, situations for Max to recognize, scenarios for him to envision. But the real question lingered. What would the echo of their encounter manifest as in the days ahead? Just as they stepped onto the field, a figure appeared in the distance, an outline that resembled the man from before. Tom's heart raced, and he gripped the bat tighter. Was this a coincidence? Or had fate delivered them right back to where it all began? "Max, stay close," he instructed, tension rising once more as anticipation gripped him fiercely. The time had come to face a lingering trepidation that refused to fade. Tom's pulse quickened as the man approached, silhouetted against the fading sunlight. He could hardly make out his features, but the way he moved, casually and with purpose, sent shivers down Tom's spine. Was it paranoia? Or an instinct honed from years of accumulated caution? There was something unsettlingly familiar about him, a lingering dread that surged just at the edge of recognition. "Stay close," he whispered again to Max, trying to keep his voice steady. The boy nodded, a look of concern etched on his face. Tom instinctively positioned himself between Max and the advancing figure, a protective barrier with intentions beyond just guarding his son. This was a challenge to his own fears. Max still clutched the bat, his small hands trembling slightly. Tom felt a tight knot in his stomach. He had always envisioned teaching his son the sport, not how to confront lurking dangers. Yet here they were, life's lesson having arrived like an uninvited guest. "Dad, who was that?" Max asked, a mixture of curiosity and trepidation in his voice. Tom's instinct screamed at him to shield Max from the truth. "I don't know, buddy, but we're gonna be okay," he replied, forcing a calmness he didn't feel. This was more than just a moment. This was a pivotal point in their lives, a chance for him to demonstrate what it meant to act bravely in the face of uncertainty. The figure paused as he came closer, scanning the field, locking eyes with Tom for a brief moment that felt infinitely longer. Tom's heart dropped. The man's expression was unreadable, the gaze both penetrating and unsettling. It ignited a sense of urgency within him, a visceral reminder that what lay ahead could require more than just awareness. This might be about confrontation. "Max, let's back up a little," he instructed, his voice sharp and clear. As they stepped away, the figure advanced again, intent and focused. Tom's mind raced with options. Awareness was crucial, but it was also about stepping up in a way he hadn't anticipated. "Is that the man you were talking about?" Max whispered, eyes wide and frightened. Tom nodded slowly, trying to model steadiness. "Yes, it is. Remember what we talked about. Trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, we react." The man moved closer still, and now Tom could see the weathered lines on his face, the hard set of his jaw. This wasn't coincidence. It was a reckoning. As the man approached, Tom's initial plan, to keep his distance while assessing the threat, began to shift. He could not let fear dictate his actions, nor could he allow his son to witness any more uncertainty. If it came down to it, he needed to show Max what it meant to stand firm, to confront, rather than succumb. "Hey!" Tom called out, raising his voice with authority, drawing the man's attention fully onto him. "What do you want?" The smile that crept across the man's face was chilling. Instead of a response, the man gestured towards Max, a slow, deliberate act that sent a jolt of fear through Tom. "He's a good kid, isn't he?" the man said, his voice smooth yet laced with a sense of malice that made Tom's skin crawl. "Leave my son alone," Tom responded, locking eyes with the man, forcing himself to stand his ground. He felt Max's small hand grip him tighter, the boy sensing the shift in tension. But deep down, a flicker of doubt ignited within Tom. What if this confrontation revealed more about himself than he was ready to accept? Could he be the protector his son believed him to be? The challenge of vulnerability loomed larger than the unknown man now, but it surged with an impending urgency. Would facing this figure reveal a strength Tom had buried beneath layers of doubt? Her resolution was now inevitable. He would either rise to the occasion or watch his son's perception of safety crumble. As the man's intent became clearer through the veil of uncertainty, Tom knew he had to act. But the price could be momentous. Tom clenched his fists, determination coursing through him. It was not just his son on the line, but the essence of what they were both capable of facing together. At that fractured moment, Tom realized he could no longer hide behind fear. The time had come for confrontation. The moment to define both their fates. "Why are you here?" he demanded once more, but this time with steel in his voice. The man chuckled, stepping closer, as shadows began to envelop them all. What revelation would this encounter hold for Tom? The stakes had risen, and his journey toward personal development was about to plunge into a confrontation he never expected. Would he emerge stronger, or would the darkness of this moment engulf them both? Tom stood firm, the evening air thick with palpable tension. As the strange man edged even closer, a tempest of emotions surged within him. Fear for Max's safety mingled with an awakening resolve that had been quietly brewing since that fateful call at the park. The stakes were no longer abstract. They were here, in front of him, challenging everything he believed about himself and his ability to protect his family. "Why are you here?" he demanded again, his voice steady despite the storm raging inside. He could feel the weight of his son's eyes upon him, raw with uncertainty yet tinged with trust. Max was watching, a future shaped by the actions of this very moment. The man stifled a laugh, tilting his head with an unsettling nonchalance. "Just making sure everyone's playing nice. Kids should always be watched closely, don't you think?" His tone dripped with a familiarity that stung, as if he saw through Tom's bravado into the latent fears that pooled beneath. No one should watch children but the parents. Tom shot back, his heart pounding in his chest. He was not just defending his son. He was asserting his right to be a protector and a figure of stability. The man had found the soft underbelly of parental instinct, but Tom wouldn't allow him to exploit that. The underlying tension shifted as the man took another step closer, his smile fading as his posture shifted from playful to predatory. "You're making a big mistake. You think you're the hero here, but you're just a worried dad, trying to play the knight." "Maybe I am," Tom replied, the conviction in his voice ringing louder than the fear clawing at the back of his mind. "But I'll play it well if it means keeping my child safe." Max's grip tightened on Tom's arm, an embodiment of the trust he placed in his father. And Tom felt the heat of that trust propel him forward. He recalled the many lessons he had taught his students about standing up in the face of adversity, about the strength that comes from solidarity. What had felt like an instinct to flee now morphed into a call to stand and confront. He had to protect not just Max, but other children too. An unseen collective yearning for safety just like his son. The man glared, frustration marring his features. "Your family will suffer if you keep looking under every rock, Tom. Wake up." And just like that, clarity pierced through Tom's mind, illuminating the path before him. He understood that this confrontation was not just about one man or the threat he posed. It was about learning to trust himself, not just as a protector, but as a leader within his community, who could lead through example. "Maybe you're right," Tom replied, his demeanor shifting from defiance to almost a calm sense of duty. But if it saves even one child from feeling unsafe, I'll keep looking. His voice turned resolute as he stepped closer, affirming his own power and ownership over the moment. There was no turning back. He had drawn a line in the sand, and he was prepared to defend it. Why don't you find a way to be useful somewhere else? He advanced a little further, his height and confidence suddenly standing tall against the looming specter. The man blinked, something strange flickering in his eyes before he chuckled again, a sound devoid of humor. You think you can protect them? You can't be everywhere. How can you even be sure they're safe? The question echoed in Tom's mind, instantly raising doubts. But rather than retreating into fear, he recognized this as another opportunity to conquer his uncertainty. I can't be everywhere. You're right, Tom admitted earnestly. But I can build a network of people who care, an awareness that won't let the shadows flourish. For the first time he felt the weight of his purpose crystallize into something solid, a mission. Good luck with that. The man scowled, backing up slightly, sensing the shift in power. Tom held his gaze, unfaltering. I don't need luck. I have resolve. He was standing taller, finally feeling the recognition of his own worth as a father and educator. As the man slowly retreated, Tom felt an unexpected surge of validation. He had taken a stand. Drawing a deep breath, he turned to Max. You did great, buddy. I want you to know that even in fear, we can be brave. Max's small frame released a sigh of relief, laughter bubbling up as he wielded the bat, and declared, Let's practice hitting again. Tom smiled broadly, emotions washing over him like sunlight breaking the horizon after an unwelcome storm. Each swing represented resilience, a lesson in self-advocacy he needed to continue imparting. Not just to Max, but to himself as well. He had ventured into the depths of his fears, confronted them head-on, and emerged stronger while also uplifting his son. Over the coming weeks, Tom organized community meetings, creating a platform for dialogue, inviting other parents into a proactive stance on their children's safety. He became a leader in vigilance, unearthing reports of suspicious activity and sharing stories to empower others. In doing so, he engendered a collective readiness, proving that he did not stand alone in this fight. And what's more, with every meeting, every conversation, he saw the transformation within himself deepen. He no longer felt like a passive observer in his own life, but actively engaged in forging a safer environment for Max and all the children of the community. His classroom discussions about empowerment now infused his home practice with tangible action. Finally, while each day ushered in new challenges, Tom had fortified his resolve. He had uncovered the courage within to confront uncertainty, not just for himself, but for the children who deserved their innocence intact. Through these efforts, he reclaimed not just his son's childhood, but his own sense of purpose as a father, a role so vital to the future they were both building together. Now, as they threw the baseball back and forth, laughter blended with the fading light of day, each throw signifying both safety and hope. With every pitch, Tom felt the shadows recede. He had transformed not just himself, but also the narrative of fear into one of proactive vigilance. Max beamed with joy, completely unaware of the depth of change that had unfolded just behind those everyday moments of play. For the first time, Tom realized that it was not just about being a parent willing to protect, but about fostering a mindset of courage that could endure. In the embrace of that dawning awareness, Tom stood triumphant, not merely a guardian or protector, but a proud, competent father, ready to face whatever came next with newfound strength. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help spread these important narratives. Comment your reactions and theories about this ending. We're eager to hear what you think. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Only true fans of personal overcoming stories know the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.